How much do you know about Igbo heritage, being from the family of Jacob?
From what I gather, out of interest to know how my great race, I call it a great race because
Yeah.
I'm so proud to be an Igbo man.
Right.
And I think we have a very rich culture
Right.
and rich heritage. Or what was going to come. We had a foresight.
Right.
And it's amazing because most of the things that they are accredited to the Jews or God, or, you can still find amongst Igbos
Igbos
today.
today.
Right. So it's an inherent thing about the Igbo. If in other tribes or other races in Africa
Right.
talk about Igbos in a way that they have a high super intelligence,
Right.
foresight,
Right.
and it's not surprising that even God, who is their forefather,
Right.
had a
Right.
foresight of what was to befall the Israelites in Egypt before it happened. That the Pharaoh will arise a Pharaoh, as was said in the prophet,
Right.
that there will arise a Pharaoh who would show them favor
Right.
that was shown to their father
Right.
Jacob and their brother Joseph. So he saw that and he went out of
I
Egypt.
think the verse said that there came a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph, and he was cruel to the Israelites. It's interesting that you say the Igbos they have keen sight, they have great insight. That was a document we were studying from the U.S. government before the Biafra War, and this document was basically assessing the environment of the Igbos prior to the war, and it was reported by a Jew called Kissinger. In this document, I'm going to paraphrase what the document said. It said the Igbos are extremely intelligent, very smart, highly westernized, but mostly hated by their neighbors. And then he summed up that the war is 2-1, that the Igbos are outnumbered, and that the starvation strategy had worked. But the Igbos as a people are a unique race. They are people of God, people who He entrusted the Torah to. And this comes with the responsibility. Now, for you, knowing that you are Hebrew, how does that affect your everyday life?
It does in a way when you interact without being biased and being very objective. Not only for making money, that when you deal with somebody of another race, especially amongst the Africans, those who are our brethren in
Right.
Africa,
Right.
as in general, and in Nigeria as a small segment of this particular analysis. You see, when you deal with people, they tend to look at you as, they tend to see the Igbo man, the average Igbo man, as possessing some, like I referred earlier on, an intelligence that they try to misconstrue
Right.
to be craftiness
Right.
and cunning.
Right. Right.
Right? Because they see that the Igbo man can foresee things,
Right.
can fend for himself,
Right.
hardworking, and so and that translates into results.
Right.
So when they do things,
Right.
differently
Right.
and get a better result,
Right.
there's this kind of animosity
Right.
that it breeds
Right.
among people that they deal
The neighbors.
with, the neighbors and associates.
Absolutely.
So personally,
I think-
I've had that experience, and I know the brethren amongst Igbos, they all talk about this kind of.
There is a saying that goes, if you go to a place and there is no Igbo man there, leave the place. Which is a bit of I think it's a compliment, which means they are explorers, they are travelers. Actually, the Igbos have been called the wandering Jews of West Africa many times. But that explains a lot about their entrepreneurial skills. But this is not about their investment or how they trade, but the Igbos are very successful businessmen. We've come to conclude that. This is also something that is quite unique, especially among the Africans, if we can call the Igbos the Africans, because now we're comparing them with people who are not from the same origins. And for the Igbos who do not tell their children about this heritage, what do you have to say to them? Because one of the things we find is they don't educate their children, young ones, about their ancient history, which is a downfall.
Yeah, first of all, before I get to this one, in relation to your last question about experience, the Igbo man, as an Igbo man, how
Right.
does that, what kind of experience have I had? Then there's this analogy also you can draw
Right.
between the life or the entrepreneurship yeah, of the present the Igbo man
Right.
and the Jews,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
Right? You see, the Jews, they are known in their communities,
Right.
wherever they live,
Right.
right, as very entrepreneurial.
Right.
Yeah, they are very hardworking people in commerce and economy.
Right.
They are the status,
Right.
right? And the way they do, the way they deal in their communities, wherever they find the Jews, is not uncommon. It's not unrelated to the same way that the Igbos, tend to carry on their activities
Right.
in their and the same animosity the Jews have had such history
Experience. Right.
of
Right.
people in their communities turning against them
Right.
because they seem to be more prosperous
Right.
because of their hard work
Right. And the trade
and
skill.
industry.
Right. Right.
So that's that analogy can be drawn between that and Igbo. And that may be because they all come from the same lineage.
Well,
And
there is also a misnomer that the Jews are not Hebrew. The Jews are mainly from the Khazar tribes. And because we understand that the ancient Israelites are black people, they were African tribes. So the Jews are Jewish people, and the Jewish they pertain to be like the Yahudim, which is the Igbos now.
Okay.
So the ancient Hebrew are the Igbos, but the Jewish people are those who converted to Jewish.
to Judaism,
To
you're talking about
yes.
to the religion now,
Not
not the race now. Oh,
Well, but Yehudin is a race.
yes.
And to be a Yehudin, you have to come from the tribe of Judah,
Okay.
which is Judean tribe.
Yes.
This is where the word Jew. So a Jew is a Judean, in other words.
Okay.
So for you to be a Judean, you have to be from this tribe of people from West Africa, from the Igbo or from the Yehudin, which we know who they are. So the Jewish are from mainly Gaza and from Europe, and they are not Hebrew
Okay.
children.
They're not.
And this is the misnomer, but they have been part of this history for a long time. It is.
Yeah.
So to be a Jew, you have to be from Judah,
Okay.
a Yehudi, which is a Jew.
So and that, in other words, from this school of thought now, what you're talking about, the so-called present-day Jews are not descendants of
Jacob.
Jacob.
No, they're not.
They are not.
They are not. There's been research about 85% of them are Khazars.
And
And Khazar is Khazaria from the Europeans, from the Turkic area, the Turkic race. If you look in the book of Zechariah 9 verse 6, he said, "Among Mongols will live in Ashdod," and these are the people that he was referring to. If you look at ancient artifacts from Sennacherib, which is a king of Assyrian who captured Israel, he drew who they are on paper. He drew them as African-looking people. If you go to Egypt, they drew Israelite and they drew them as African-looking people. If you go to King of Babylon's record, he drew the black-haired people. So these are African tribes. So ancient Israelite are an African race, not a different race. And yes, yeah.
That's enlightening. Thank you very much for
welcome.
enlightening me on that. You asked me a question regarding how what can I say to people who do not teach their children?
Yes. For the Igbos who does not educate their children about this heritage which they share.
You see, that is a very big point of kind of, suffice it to say, I'm sorry to say that it's kind of dying out.
Right.
The language. And the race without a language is a lost race.
It's a lost race.
And it's become something of like a fashion amongst the Igbos to speak English or a foreign language wherever they live. Even in Igbo land, to their children. Instead of propagating the language and culture, because it's the language that propagates the culture, and that's what can give the heritage, and success of it. So to those parents, carry it on to the next generation, and teach them. And the one primary way of doing that is the language. To teach your children, speak the language. I must use this opportunity. It is a very great opportunity to use this opportunity to reach out to whoever is watching this program or whoever is an Igbo man, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Please, I implore you to speak Igbo language to your children. It is the primary language that that you always gave to you, and the onus lies on you to project it, to propagate it, and you can do that primarily by speaking to your children. So your children will pass it on to their children and to generations to come. And that's how it got to us, and we have a responsibility to carry it on, to carry the torch of this Igbo language and culture and heritage to the coming generations.
This is good to hear. At least there are people who show common commitment or would rather show it. Because family is the foundation of society. And what the father teaches the son is important to building an entire community. And as you said, it is for the parents to take the responsibility to teach their young ones about their heritage and to educate them. But what we find out is most of the parents do not know this history of the Igbos. So how can they teach what they don't understand themselves? They know it quote unquote, but not. They haven't studied it because the Igbo history is not taught in Nigeria, is not being taught in schools. They even discuss it now to take away history from public schools in Nigeria. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, it is really sad, so to speak. It's very sad that the Igbo, the teaching of Igbo history, that was the school curriculum. We read more of European history.
Which is Nigerian.
Nigerian the black man history. Or the Igbo history. We read a lot of things about the white early settlers in Nigeria and this, because maybe there were no materials. You know, maybe so when the defense regarding this, not enough written material.
It's not documented.
Yes, portraying the Igbo history and culture and heritage. But now, in the modern time, there are a lot of research going on these days, and documents are available. So it's very nice for a connected effort amongst the know, those who are in the know, to coordinate really curriculum for history.
This is what our research is doing. Our documentary is about educating the people, their history, their past, so they understand who they are, what happened, where things went wrong, they can correct these mistakes. You are right. There was no written history about the Igbos. Even some Europeans have actually declared that Africa has no history because they did not find document explaining this history. But what they forgot is Africa has been there before man. Africa is where the first man lived. And they're now discovering that Adam was an African. And with that said, how can you then say that Africa has no history when you have a Bible in your hand? The same people who wrote the Bible. The Bible is an African history, in my own opinion.
Yeah, moreover, also, history is not only history when it is written. Yeah, there's what's called oral tradition. Oral tradition, history can be passed on. That's why I talk about the language. You see, without language, I think the history is shadowed. So, but we had during our times. I know my grandfather in the evenings when we go to the village, we sit out there. He tells us from the past. These are history. No, not written. But I heard it from my grandfather. He taught my father, and I have the responsibility to teach my children that. That is history.
And this is what the Europeans had a problem with, because they couldn't find documents. Because in their own case, they write it in document. But to us, it's passed down orally, and which is what is also in the book of Moses. God said, teach your children, talk to them about these things so they can know it. So in this way, the oral tradition is how we passed on our history to our children, not in document.
Exactly. So it's the fact that it is not written doesn't make it any less, any less history. You're right, because there are a lot of practices in the modern time that are not written. I'll give you an analogy. In the United Kingdom, they have an unwritten constitution. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. So the fact that the constitution is not written doesn't
Right.
make it a lesser constitution.
Right.
But it's tradition past.
Right.
So the same thing, we have history.
Right.
The only thing is that that's why we ought to,
Right.
know our language.
Right.
Ought to pass it on
To our children.
to our children. But it's also good now that we are in time of scripts, in time of the digital world.
Right.
Such things that have been passed through oral tradition, and it is also good for as research materials people can go in and source for such documents or information and get it right.
Point of reference. I think it's good that for your contribution to have a combined effort within document that can be translated and be educated, we can pass on to people. It can be taught as a curriculum in schools. So young people can learn about our history. No, actually, yes, we do have a history. It's in the book here, and they can read and teach other people as well. Very well. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure having you on the set. For our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. And yes, we'll put our references up. You can also look at it and do your own research. Thank you.